Imagino, and Chris Penny from Vertu Motors. Please give them a welcome.
So much. Hello, hello, hello. Has everybody got their UN National Assembly headsets on? I love it. I'm Laura McHenry. I'm VP of Marketing for Imagino. Yes, we are a tech vendor. We're a customer engagement platform that's made up of a CDP, zero copy, and then is that Ollie Stewart there? Hello, sorry, old friend just popped up in the audience. And then a campaign activation tool on top. That is all we're going to talk about in terms of Imagino, because I'm here with someone much more interesting. Mr. Chris Penny.
Hello.
Who is Global Strategic Project Director at Vertu Motors.
Group, we only sell in the UK, don't oversell me.
Everybody
Not got international quite yet.
Everybody pops global on the front.
Not me.
I love it. And Vertu Motors have over 200 car dealerships here in the UK and turn over more than £5 billion. Big focus on tech easing the customer journey, tech giving a better customer experience. And Chris is going to talk to us about how he started off, as it said on the tin, in data deadlock and what that meant to Vertu Motors.
Indeed. It's hard to do this, and I don't want this to be a therapy session, by the way.
I feel like we're set up for it.
But I think I've got a little bit of PTSD, sort of project traumatic stress disorder. So this might be a familiar, either terrifying or familiar experience to some people in the room, where I joined Vertu in January 2022, and one of the first projects I was given was, we want to have a CDP. And a few weeks in, I sort of looked under the hood of the business and realized that was a nice aspiration, but they didn't even have a data team. So we had commercial finance analysts, we had a few business analysts, we had a few SQL developers, and they'd come up with this wild idea between business silos to have something called MDM, which was Master Data Management, which was effectively a small on-prem SQL data warehouse, which didn't contain all our data, didn't have a single customer view. A lot of that data wasn't clean, wasn't necessarily correct. Some of it was duplicated. And at that point, by the time I joined, we'd already procured a SaaS service from another famous CDP provider out there. Given that I'm not sat here today, 3 years later, with that CDP provider, should give you a little bit of an inkling as to how that journey went. So we weren't in a good place. So the first thing we had to really figure out is, what does data mean to our business, and then sort of re-engineer from data upwards what we actually wanted to achieve out of a data platform.
And I mean, it's probably a bit states the obvious, but it's worth covering it off. From that state of deadlock, what were the first things that you actually wanted to get sorted to start some iterative improvement?
Well, again, we purchased a CDP before hiring a head of data. I think if we had that time over again, we'd have probably done that differently. So we got through 2022 and we really sort of scaled and built out our data team. And by doing that, you then really have to look yourselves in the mirror and understand just how disparate the data is. We have an ERP which is automotive focused, which is called Keyloop. In our world, we call that a DMS, or dealer management system. And we had to get to that point where the data was clean enough for a CDP to be activated. I don't blame our first choice, because when you pick a partner, that's a relationship on both sides, supplier and customer, where I think they made some promises that they couldn't keep, but we also made some promises on our side that we thought we were more data mature than we actually were.
And I think that's the thing, if you were buying the CDP before you even had that overview of your data with that head of data role in place, then probably the information you were giving to your first CDP provider was probably a bit aspirational, shall we say?
Optimistic, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And I think the thing as well with Vertu is you rapidly acquire other companies. Quite a staggering ratio. Sorry, it sounds like I'm opening a can of Foster's or something, doesn't it?
I wish it was. It's Austrian Alps mineral water.
Austrian Alps
Lovely.
mineral water. So how does all this company acquisition as well tie into the data and the deadlock and the complexity of your model?
Yeah, so we have a CRM team, and this is pre you guys. they would have to manually get data out via RepGen, via Excel, and because even though we have a single CRM, there are different instances of that, and that can happen because of acquisition. It can take you a while to be able to merge all that data together. So basic tasks, sending out a new car marketing email, sending out retargeted emails, they were taking individual humans like 6 hours, and that really limits the amount of sends you can do, and also you struggle to be able to expand into the retargeting space, optimizing your Google spend, optimizing your Meta spend, because we had no mechanism to get it out into one place centrally and have that single view of the customer, number one, but then be able to activate it without a huge amount of human capital. And when we're working on as tight margins as we are, we don't have that risk tolerance to be able to make big gambles on developing new technology or hiring new people unless we know we're going to see a significant return. So everything's high stakes.
So from the inside looking out then, when we come to this project, you've got your first CDP, then you've got your head of data and your data team, and then you decide, no, we're going to start again. Is that fair? What were the stakes inside for this project at Vertu Motors? From the inside out, what did it feel like? Well,
so for those of you who don't know the automotive industry that well, I'm sure many of you have bought or sold cars. You might think that every time a car dealer sells a vehicle that we're making thousands and thousands of pounds of profit. To give you an idea of what we look like, and we're a PLC, so it's all a matter of public record, we'll turn over around about £5 billion in our last set of full year results. That turns into around about £30 million of profit. So the gross margin and profitability is really, really tight. That means you just simply can't make mistakes. So if we go back to what we're trying to achieve as a business, you've got your head of data in place, you want to be as efficient as possible, you don't want to waste any money, but you also want to try and do everything on a, not so much a shoestring, but with as much of your in-house heads as you've got. So we've got 60, 70 in-house data engineers. So when our first attempt at a CDP with X provider, he who shall not be named, failed, you then go, well, what can we do ourselves? So you sit down with your new head of data, and they want to make a name for themselves, so they make a few promises about what they think they can achieve. You sit down with your CRM team, and everyone's supposed to work together like happy families, and then you have an attempt at trying to get to a point of CDP maturity where you don't need a partner, you don't need another SaaS product. Yeah, that didn't work either.
I think the happy families thing is just, I think so many companies as well have these siloed data we talk about a lot, but we also have siloed teams. And I think the first thing everyone thinks is we need to get all these teams to come together and work as one in a spirit of unity, possibly with unicorns and maybe a rainbow in the background.
Yeah, so
I think the first thing is just to accept that's never going to happen. And however you can combat that technologically, it's all to the good.
Or you're solving for the wrong problem.
Yeah.
And I think we were like, how do we get these teams to work more harmoniously together? Well, that's actually not the answer. Because if you've got a really efficient data team and a really efficient CRM team and something that stitches it all together in the middle and does it well with a good single view of the customer, why should those humans in those silos ever need to interact? Because if the data team's making it available and it's in real time and it can be self-serve and all the journeys are sort of what you see is what you get and how you build it, you don't get friction if people don't need to talk to each other. Yeah, that sounds like a really harsh thing to say, but it's really easy to be happy families if you don't need to speak to them.
They can be scornful about each other
Indeed.
from a distance.
That's exactly it.
Perfect.
And that's definitely, we've seen benefit from that already.
All right, so this was a high necessity project. This was high risk, high necessity. Yep. It's got to work. Mm-hmm. What were you taking from your previous experience going, whatever happens, we can't do this again, or we mustn't make this mistake again, or we must look for this time instead of this?
Yeah, well, number one, you can't put the cart before the horse. And again, we're at an event today where there's lots of people peddling lots and lots of things. There is no perfect technology solution to any problem, and everything relies on that relationship on both sides. There's amazing providers, but there's a customer relationship and a customer responsibility there to be in a position where promises on both sides can be kept. We weren't in that place when we sourced our first CDP. You've got to really look hard in the mirror and ask the hard questions of the provider and ensure they ask those hard questions of you. Are we ready for this? Because it's easy to put the big buzzwords up on the slides and look at this 130% we did with this business and look at this cost per sale we did with another business, but it means nothing unless you can activate it in your business And we've been on a rapid journey in terms of deployment of data digitalization over the past 3 years. And all I would urge is ask hard questions up front, really hard questions, and ensure you get hard questions thrown back at you. Because it's easy for a partner to come in and say, yeah, we can do all that. Doesn't matter what your data looks like. Doesn't matter you don't have a cloud data warehouse. Doesn't matter that things aren't in Redshift. We'll just figure it out. It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, so almost ask the implementation details before you've even signed on the dotted line. Get into that level of granularity and understanding.
I wouldn't say it's granularity, it's just honesty. You need to find a partner that isn't just going to sell to you. They're going to be honest with you about the battle, because it is hard. We've failed once externally. We've had a difficult second attempt internally, and then a successful journey the third time. The difference working with Imagino is it felt like you were working on it with us rather than either working on it for us or just giving us a SaaS platform and going, there you go, it's your responsibility to make it work. And that's why we made more progress from, when did we get started? July last year?
Yes.
So from July last year to deployment in December, we got that done. It was a really efficiently run project, not without its flaws and difficulties, usually people, but we made more progress in that 4 or 5 months than we had done in the 3 or 4 years previously.
Yeah.
And it's all to do with making sure you understand and be honest with yourself as a business, and ensure any partner that you select makes you be honest with yourselves.
So during the implementation period, what were the main goals there? What were the main objectives to just get live? What was the goal? What was the target?
Well, we needed to do something.
Yeah.
We need, to give you, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm playing my really small violin. We've got around 8,000 heads. And again, not to get too political, but Rachel Reeves came in the October budget last year and added £10 million in pure cost to our business, in minimum wage, national insurance contributions. And we have to be more efficient. That's a third of our profit gone if we don't address that. What we don't want to do is do that through redundancy, but what we hope to see is, as people naturally leave the business, we need to have developed business efficiencies in our CRM team particularly to make sure that we can replace that with technology. Because thankfully, your prices may go up in the future, but probably not to the same degree as national insurance contributions, pension contributions, and national minimum wage contributions.
Oh, you never know.
So the first job is, let's see, you've got to deliver those efficiencies, and we've been able to do that, and we needed to do it quick, because when there's so much business laser-like focus on it going, because a CEO, they get attached to buzzwords. Our CEO is Robert Forrester. He's seen other people present CDPs and have CDPs, so he's like, well, we need a CDP.
Yeah.
Well, okay, what for? For what problem?
Shiny?
How? And how do we get it out the door?
Yeah.
So our core business challenges were, we need to save money on PPC, so suppression, and we'll talk about that in a little while. We've also got to increase the volume of sends we do. So like Josh, who's probably sat over there somewhere, there he is. Hello, Josh. When we took him through how many sends we were doing versus the size of our database, just in the ECRM space, I think his head nearly fell off that they were so low. But we were limited by that human resource factor.
Oh, what you're saying, 6 hours, wasn't it?
Yeah, because to do each campaign, whereas we should be at a point now where we can massively scale up the quality, the personalization of those sends, and also take out the people required to be able to extract, rep gen, aggregate, validate, and then push that into a send platform and get those emails out.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about the light at the end of the tunnel that's starting to appear. What was the first light at the end of the tunnel? What was the moment when you thought, oh, thank God, I'm not going to get sacked?
I have that fear every day. It's just imposter syndrome for you. 3rd of December last year, we got our first use case live, which was suppression on Google.
Okay.
And until you actually get something out the door, particularly when you're dealing with data and you're dealing with API connectors, until you've actually seen it work, it's all well and good to see it in dev and to have everyone tell you it's going to be fine, but it's when you put that first created audience out of Imagino and feed that through the connector into Google, and then see the immediate impact of you not targeting those people because they bought a car in the last 90 days.
Right,
so
probably don't.
You know that's broadly wasted spend. I think that night I had the first good night's sleep I'd had in about 3 months. So it was good.
Your bags have almost disappeared now, because tell us where we are right now in this whole project, in this whole journey, at this moment in time, and what the plan is.
Well, it sounds like a cliche. It is a journey. I don't think these things are ever going to be finished. Where we are now, to give you an example, in January, in December, we set live a service booking abandonment. Like if you think about typical cart abandonment journeys, someone adds a pair of jeans to a basket, doesn't buy them, gets a retargeting email, goes back, buys the pair of jeans. That doesn't happen with cars. If you've not bought a car through an e-commerce journey for £35,000-40,000, there's chances are there's a bloody good reason for it. But service bookings was a different kettle of fish. No one wants to book their car in for a service. It's a chore. There's not a great deal of utility in it other than you have to do it to keep up your manufacturer's warranty. So we had an awful lot of people start their online service booking journey on our website and then disappear. We'd never been able to, until we deployed Imagino, get those customers from the tag, understand, because they usually are existing customers, understand if they exist in our database, and then give them that sort of stock abandonment retargeting email. Did you forget something?
Yeah.
Just in January alone, we've paid for your costs in gross profit from those abandonment service bookings just in January. I shouldn't tell you that, should I?
I hope someone's written that down. I need that.
So we're in a really good place. So that's doing some key things that we've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
The next thing is taking all those manual processes through to about June this year, so we can really realise that efficiency in headcount, because our CRM team's understaffed at the moment. So we don't want to recruit any more heads, but we want the same amount of people to be able to get us from 6 million to 12 million sends. And then the other big thing is PPC and meta suppression, what I was talking about before. So if we take every person who's bought a car from us in the past 90 days, and we're about to extend this out to 6 months, and just go, if they've got a Gmail account, we don't want them to see our PPC, which is a sizable spend. That's given us about a 1 to 1.5% in PPC spend through Google, and about a 3% saving in Meta. And that really adds up at our sort of budgets. So really quickly, even before you've got to really exciting dynamic use cases like some of the stuff that Domino's were talking about before, we're already seeing a return. And if it's covering its costs, you can then get to a point where we know the ROI is going to be 5x, 6x, 7x, 9x, 10x, which is what we need to make it pay.
And just proportionally, so everyone understands, how many of your legacy systems are integrated at the moment, proportionally, and how many do you still need to wrap in? Are you just...
Everything's integrated.
Right.
So it's just migrating everything over, so that the triggers come from the CDP as opposed to being sourced through a rep gen, put into a file, and then sent into our Send platform, which currently isn't you, but we start our trial on the Send platform with Imagino campaign on the 1st of March. That just takes time.
Yeah.
But all of our data, single customer view, everything sits in an Amazon Redshift database. You connect directly to that, you read that in real time. So if we had the horsepower to move everything over tomorrow, we're enabled to be able to do it. It just takes time.
That's fantastic. And when we talk about the future, I know we have 2.5 minutes here, I'm clicking down rapidly and I want to cover this off. What's the longer term strategic goal? So dare we talk about some of the buzzwords that we hear in the industry at the moment? What's next? Once we've sorted out the Billy basics, if you like, what's the dream?
Well, it won't be a surprise to any of you that marketing is quite expensive. So everyone's always trying to drive efficiency and effectiveness out of it. Used car and new car buyers are two distinct audiences. The manufacturers really support us on the new car journey with the above-the-line spend they do, the digital stuff they do. However, what we need to do is we get enough leads into our business. What we need is better quality of customers and better quality of conversion, and that's on the sales and after-sales side. Mm-hmm. Now, we've got plenty of customers in our CRM, upwards of 4 million. We have enough information to be able to reach them at the right time, because people are buying a car usually in a need state rather than a want state.
Yeah.
It's different to us. Like, we have a Ferrari dealership, but most of our sales are Vauxhall and Ford, and these are cars that people buy because they have a new kid, or they get a new job, or they move house. These aren't like, I'm going to buy a new Rolex. And if you can use all the data that we have, now we've got it in one place, and set up the triggers to reach someone at high intent points where we know they've been back to our website, they've viewed 7 cars, we know that they're 32 months into a journey, we know that they've got 7 finance payments left, and then we can get that personalised comms out via the CDP. There's no better way to achieve return on investment than selling to customers who you've already sold to. Completely. And if we can get our retention rate up from 20% to 25, 30%, the outward marketing that we need to spend on acquiring new customers falls by millions.
And I did hear a whisper from the dev team that maybe I'm not meant to know about, but I'm going to bring it up right now, because I feel like it's just the two of us.
AI.
Artificial intelligence.
Yeah, okay. So It's the big buzzword at the moment. If it was CDP a few years ago, it's AI now.
It is.
The challenge with AI is a data challenge again. If you're using large language models, whether you're using those in the cloud with ChatGPT or Gemini, or whether you're doing something on bare metal in your own data warehouse with something like Facebook Llama, you've got to be able to give it all the right information, train it in the right way. What we've figured out is now we've got probably the best view of data we've ever had inside Imagino. Instead of starting to connect large language models to source data in something like Amazon Redshift, it's actually a lot easier for it to read it in more natural relational terms from your platform. So we actually think giving the source data from Imagino to an LLM will produce richer, higher converting responses all the way through the journey, from things like chat, so even things like handling prospect or outbound cold emails via AI. The potential's awesome. It's going to be a big year for us at Vertu in AI this year.
It's incredibly exciting. I hope everybody's enjoyed our chat. Chris has graciously allowed himself to be handcuffed to our stand just over there for the next 15 minutes if you've got any more questions, taking digital domination to a whole new talking point. And it's been a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you all so very much.
Thanks,